I'll be giving you a brief overview about what duty to warn is and how it's related to the Tarasov case. So what is it? Duty to warn is an ethical guideline that states that therapists have the duty to warn third parties of any threats made against them by their clients. Now, as with everything, each state has their own set of rules, and some states do not have this at all. So what about confidentiality? Confidentiality is an ethical standard that protects clients from disclosure of information without their consent. If this is broken, clinicians can be sued and even lose their licenses. The only time this can be broken is for the following reasons: civil or criminal commitment or competency to stand trial. A client introduces a mental condition as a claim or defense in a civil action. Clients younger than 60 or a dependent elderly person. Now for this, for example, since clinicians are mandated reporters, let's say your client says that they're outright being abused or you suspect abuse, like physical marks or something, you're required to report that no matter what. And then when therapists believe an individual has been the victim of a crime, and the main reason for this presentation, when a client presents danger to self or others. So problems with duty to warn. Clients confide violent urges less often. So if you break this confidentiality, one, they're either never going to come back to you, or they're just going to tell you their violent urges less. Typically, violent people do not enter therapy unless they're mandated to, so like by the Corps or other programs. And then therapists do not ask about violent tendencies. They typically don't ask any questions during sessions because they usually do that at the beginning during an intake. And since therapy is supposed to be more of an introspective thing, so like the patient guides the sessions and you just kind of elaborate with them and guide them, that's why therapists do not ask questions. So why does duty to warn exist? Well, it all comes down to a little short story about Prosenjit Pradar and Tatiana Tarasov. So there were students at Berkeley in the 70s, and basically Pradar wanted a relationship with Tatiana Tarasov, but she did not reciprocate, and so he started to go to therapy, and he expressed these violent thoughts about buying a gun and killing her. So the clinician decided to report that to the authorities and suggested that he be committed to a facility for a few hours just to see what was up with him. Well, the authorities picked him up, they questioned him, and he was found to be rational, and he promised to never go near Tatiana again. To sum it up, he lied, and he killed her 2 months later. Of course, her parents were not thrilled by this, and so they sued the University of Berkeley, the clinician, the authorities, and like the whole institution itself. And so that's where we get Tarasov versus the Regents of the University of California in 1976, where they basically stated that, yes, the clinician had the duty to warn her, but she didn't, and so that's where this whole guideline, the Supreme Court of California ruled that every clinician must warn a patient. But they went back and they they revised the ruling, and then they actually let the authorities and the clinician off and the university off, saying that it wasn't necessarily their fault that he killed her. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but then he was let go and deported to India, where he coincidentally married a lawyer. So states with duty to warn, the blue states are mandated no matter what. Those are mandatory. The green states have more lenient laws, and then of course the yellow states don't have that at all. States like Texas actually value confidentiality more than the duty to warn, so that's where we get the dilemma. Like, do you listen to the oath you took when you got your license, or do you listen to the law? And then Illinois in particular says that when and to the extent necessary in the therapist's sole discretion, disclosure is necessary to warn or protect a specific individual against whom a recipient has made a specific threat of violence when there exists a special relationship. So duty to warn is seen as a controversial topic amongst the psychological community, and clinicians often feel an immense pressure to be on the lookout for any signs of danger. And that is the dilemma they face, and the question I'll end with. If you, as a clinician or counselor, are supposed to be non-judgmental and listen to what your client is saying, how do you judge for things that are seen as dangerous, and when do you say something?